Good afternoon. So I'm told I'm the last speaker and you're all very tired. So we can start with a bit of a wake-up fast survey. So who traveled to come to the conference? Who had to travel from abroad? You're not from Portugal. So keep your hand up if you really, really like the current solution your company has for travel. Keep your hand up if you love the solution your company has for travel. So you guys work for us, so that's not fair, and we should speak after that. I'll be very curious to hear about it. So we at Travelperk are trying to solve a small problem, a $1.5 trillion industry called business travel. Today, I'm actually going to speak, or I'm going to try to convince you that the world is changing, and there are more $1 billion opportunities today for companies than there were 10 years ago. And I'm going to talk about three main areas: how software is built, how is it bought or sold, and the narrowing gap between consumers and enterprise users. Okay, so let's start with the first point, how software is built. The old world, and I apologize if your company is one of these on the screen, the old world, software was built as a suite, right? Very complex modules, different elements that you can buy and add, a closed garden that was self-sufficient. That's how the old world was building software. The old world also building software in a way that you get a yearly release, maybe a quarterly release if you're very lucky, but that's it. So you have to wait for the next release to come, next quarter or next year. The new world, on the other hand, in the new world, you build software as a small subset that solves a specific pain. And this small subset is doing it really well, and it integrates, it plays nicely with other elements. For example, in business travel, in what we do, travel and expense goes hand in hand together. We are not touching expense in terms of what we build. We're only doing travel really well, and we integrate to Expensify and other players that do expense management better than we do. That's the new world. And instead of doing a release every year or every quarter, we do something like 100 releases every day. That's the new world of how you build software, point number one. The second point I want to talk about is how you buy software. So I actually have some of my best salespeople here sitting on stage, next to the stage. The old world of selling software, they will tell you, was you have to go and wine and dine some C-level executive. They probably will buy your software without having had a look or having used your software based on a feature list, based on a price, based on how good the wine was when you wined and dined them, right? That was the old world. You probably had to pay a yearly fee, and you had a multi-year contract when you buy the old world software, these kind of solutions. The new world is very different. How you buy software in the new world is very different. The end user is actually how we enter companies, in our case, the traveler, right? Some of these companies on screen, like Slack, for example, are starting with the end user, like a team or a small division, and they expand from there, completely bottom up. So we moved from top-down, how you buy software, to bottom-up. And the end user is your key buyer, not the C-level anymore, the end user, the traveler in our case. So this, girls and guys here from my team, they speak with you as travelers, they get you to use Travelperk. You love it so much that you talk about it in your organization and to other companies, friends and family working in other companies, and this is how we expand. The last person to know about us is the CFO, who traditionally is the person who used to be sold to in the old world. Difference number two. The third difference is the narrowing gap between consumer and enterprise software. So in the old world, you had your work phone and your work computer and work software tools that you had to use. You couldn't choose. You had to use them. The company imposed, and you asked no questions about it. One clear example, if you think about communication, for example, I don't know if some of you veterans remember Lotus 123. So my team is too young for that, but if you work in a company in the 90s, you had to use something called Lotus 123, and that's how you communicated with your colleagues. The new world, end users choose directly. And in this case, the comparison to Lotus 123 is Slack, for example, right? So the narrowing gap between enterprise and consumer is seen with Slack, because people use Slack for work, but also I see family Slack groups and friends Slack group. So who tells anymore the difference between what's consumer and what's enterprise software? I argue that the difference is disappearing. Maybe it has disappeared already. Maybe it's about to disappear very, very soon. So if you build software today, and you're not thinking about yourself as a consumer software, I think you're missing out, and the train will live without you. So at Travelperk, we try to lead, humbly, this $1.5 trillion industry called business travel in that way. And we are the first to have built a consumer-grade platform to book and manage business travel. And we do it with three very important elements. The first is beautifully simple UX. So if our old school competitors, the enterprise software old world for business travel, required you to go through a training to know how to use a flight booking tool, a hotel booking tool, I mean, all of us are using Booking.com and Expedia and the likes to book our vacations. Nobody trained us on how to do it. We just get it. The UX is guiding us. So we have built the same. Our UX is so simple. You onboard yourself. You start using it. Within a minute, you know how to use it. You don't have to be trained on how to use it. It's not only about the design. It's the whole experience. It is a consumer, beautiful experience. The second point is we merge the consumer and the business travel inventory. So we are technically a travel agency, just so we can get the same inventory that your old school travel agents got, so we can sell you all of that stuff. But we also have partnerships with Kayak and Booking.com and Expedia and Airbnb. So we have all of this content in our platform. You don't have to go outside and compare prices anymore. We bring it into the platform. Right? So having the world's largest bookable travel industry is important if you think about yourself as a consumer tool. The third element is an amazing human support. And the kind of half-funny joke, I guess, that I keep using is, in my pitch decks, I say we have HI. And the investors go, what is HI? It's like AI, it's like something amazing. I don't know if you know, but you have to put AI if you want to multiply your valuation when you raise money. So it's very important. AI, blockchain, and drones. So I say HI, and people are like, wow, HI. What is that? HI is human intelligence. We have very smart people working for us. 4 of them are here. Another 160 are back in Barcelona. And we have a 24/7 in-house travel agency, basically, a customer support team that will give you any kind of support you want at any moment in the day in more than one language. So why is it so important is because the modern traveler, the modern user expects an amazing, amazing support. And this is something that is a bit counterintuitive for startups, I think, for tech startups, because the tech startup mentality is let's offload the users. Let's let them call an outsourced call center in some other country. We put the number on the top of our webpage. You go now to travelperk.com, you see our number on the top of the page, and it calls our office in Barcelona. These are employees of Travelperk, and they provide an amazing service. This is a part of our consumer promise to our users. These three together allowed us to grow really, really fast. So the company has been around for around 3 years, a bit more than 3 years. We are serving 1,500 companies, mainly in Europe, so we're focused in Europe, but also in the US, in Asia, Middle East, and Africa. And we just announced our Series C, so we raised $44 million in our Series C with Chinevik and Yuri Milner and Tom Stafford, as long with our existing investors. So that's what we do. And if you have to take only one point from this, if you're creating companies, I would say do not forget the end user and treat your company, even if you're selling to businesses, treat your product, treat your company as a consumer company. I would argue that it will be much more successful, will grow much, much faster. Thank you very much.